Hello friends and welcome to my first Elden Ring video. Today I want to go over confirmed information regarding Elden Ring. Let's jump right in with the timeline while we watch the trailer one more time. On second thought, let's skip that. In an interview with Bandai Namco, Miyazaki had this to say. Development for Elden Ring started just after development for the Dark Souls 3 DLC had ended. At the time, Elden Ring was being planned as a more classic fantasy title, compared to others that were either being considered or already in the early stages of development. So, if I did the math right, Elden Ring has been in development for over 3 years now. I've been wondering, what kind of effects did the global pandemic have on game development? But that is another discussion entirely. Next, Miyazaki talks a bit about production strategy. The overall process of development has been the same as it was in Sekiro. While assigning co-directors to each project, I took direction over the various game design, art, and musical aspects of the titles. Sekiro's co-director is Kazuhiro Hamatani, known for his work on Ninja Blade, Bloodborne, and other titles. I wasn't able to find any named co-director for Elden Ring specifically, but if I had found his name, I would have butchered his name as well. If you know who it might be or have a guess, feel free to comment. Miyazaki briefly speaks on development schedule and staff. We tend to space out the development peak for our projects to make use of what little time we have. However, being able to share a vision with the co-directors as well as the development staff has allowed us to build a trusting relationship, which makes this kind of development style possible. I am incredibly grateful for them and their hard work. Let's move on to genre. You may be asking yourself, what type of game is Elden Ring? It is a third-person action RPG. Unlike Sekiro, which has a heavy focus on action, Elden Ring puts more focus on RPG elements. Of course, we're not shying away from the fun, responsive melee-based combat, and these elements will be present as well. Earlier I had said this title focuses more heavily on RPG elements. This title will include a wide variety of weapons, magic, and ways to engage enemies that make it possible to provide users with a style of gameplay and strategy that suits them. Even when compared to the Dark Souls series, I believe this title will provide even more variety in the ways for players to overcome challenges and tweak their tactics when facing enemies. Similar to the Dark Souls series, Elden Ring allows players to design and control their own unique character. As I said earlier, this title puts a heavy focus on RPG elements, and we thought this approach would best suit that focus. That all sounded really good. And then it got even better. Elden Ring is a third-person action RPG with a fantasy setting. Gameplay-wise, it's heavily based on Dark Souls. However, that doesn't mean it plays out in the same way. With a more open and vast environment, the way combat plays out becomes fundamentally different. With a larger world, new systems and action mechanics inevitably become necessary. In that sense, I think that Elden Ring is a more natural evolution of Dark Souls. So what makes Elden Ring different than a Souls game? We wanted to create a new dark fantasy action RPG full of things we weren't able to do in the Dark Souls series. If I were to put aside the world full of fresh stimulus thanks to our collaboration with Mr. Martin, I would have to say the biggest difference is it being open world. Due to this, the scale of the world and its narrative, as well as the depth and freedom of exploration, have increased dramatically. It is without a doubt our biggest title yet in terms of sheer volume. There are many definitions to the term open world, and I might not be phrasing it correctly, but we have simply tried our own approach to a game with a large, open field to play in. It is a world full of danger and threats, as well as many areas ripe for exploration. Among those areas, you will also find intricately designed, multi-layered castles and such. Alright, open world sounds nice. But tell me this, what does the name mean? Elden Ring is the name given to a mysterious concept that defines the world itself. The Elden Ring is a mysterious key element in the foundation of the world we have created. It forms the rules and rhythm of this world, but as you can see in our trailer, it has been shattered. As the trailer at the conference implied, this Elden Ring has been shattered. The significance of this will be one of the most important themes of the game. That's about all I can say at this point in time. Okay. Fair enough. What can you tell me about level design? Villages will be the dark dungeon-like ruins that you have come to expect from us. Creating a more open game is a big challenge for us. If we were to add towns on top of that, it would become a bit too much. So we decided to create an open world style game focused on what we are best at. For Elden Ring, we're going back to a Western fantasy. The game's themes are very different from our previous works, which means that beauty, justice, and strength will be different once again. That difference has a big impact on our games as a whole. While the narrow and complex dungeons of our previous games were indeed interconnected, Elden Ring's environments will be much more open and vast. The more extensive world will form a base of Elden Ring's gameplay. Its mechanics are designed with that type of environment in mind. Villages will be the dark dungeon-like ruins that you have come to expect from us. I guess my last question is this: what can you tell me about bosses? Boss fights are something we enjoy making and make up one of the climaxes to this title as well. We feel there's a wide variety of unique and horrifying bosses for players to look forward to. That's it for now. I'll leave the links for the interviews down in the description below. Have fun and stay safe, my friends.